A Lakers trade is imminent as following the signing of Marcus Smart. Now today, the wave of Shake Milton. A Lakers trade is incoming as multiple new reports have dropped, revealing some huge information surrounding Rob Pelinka's next move. But not only that, new reports have dropped surrounding one player in particular that has fans fired up. We're going to dive into exactly who that is, discuss what this means going forward as more moves are incoming and more moves are imminent. But before we get into it all, folks, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. Your guys' support has truly been unbelievable. You've been absolute beasts of the support. So make sure to continue hitting that subscribe button. Folks, a lot to go over today. Obviously, it's been a crazy 24 hours. The Lakers have signed Marcus Smart. Now, technically, of course, the full intent is to sign Marcus Smart. They have to make room. They've started by, of course, waiving Shake Milton. But more moves are on the horizon because they have to be. And a new report has dropped with some new information. But let's start with this one here. And this is from Jake Weinbach. So the Lakers need to make another move, whether that would be waiving a player or a trade to clear the money for Marcus Smart. And Weinbach thinks that despite LA needing another move, they would prefer to keep Jordan Goodwin. And of course, if you missed my video earlier today, feel free to check that one out after you watch this one in its entirety. Basically, it goes on to say, like, essentially what the situation the Lakers are in right now is you either need to make a trade to open up space, the cap, or open up, of course, the biannual exception fully, or you just let go of Jordan Goodwin and waive him. However, a new scenario has entered the playing field now, and you can see this here. I'm not sure the extent of this possibility, but PJ Washington would be the ideal fit for the Lakers. It's unclear if he's available. Reports have revealed that he is, reportedly available, and the Mavs are willing to, make moves here. But the Lakers are in the market for a 3-and-D wing. There's existing chemistry with Doncic, and of course, it would make a lot of sense. And from Washington's perspective, they're sitting on a $14.1 million expiring contract and will become extension eligible at the end of August. Of course, PJ Washington, but if he's unable to reach a long-term deal, the versatile impact player could become a high-level target for the Lakers next summer. So this is an interesting name in PJ Washington. And of course, I've been talking a lot on the channel specifically about Andrew Wiggins and how it would make even more sense now. After the Marcus Smart signing, it makes more sense than ever for them to use the assets that they have saved by having buyout guys instead of actually making a trade and using those assets to make a trade for a high-level wing. Now, is PJ Washington the answer? That's a question that, I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. He's a very unique player. He's a very solid, he turned into a very solid defender in his time in Dallas, especially when compared to his time in Charlotte. And he is very, very solid, especially given the fact that, the Lakers need, and I would much prefer Andrew Wiggins, to be clear. I definitely prefer a guy like Herb Jones. But if you're kind of stuck at the point where they need to make a move here, it makes, a fair bit of sense. And he is a better scorer than a lot of the options that they have had available. A very good three-point shooter, 14 points per game, 8 rebounds, and a good defender. Now, there is the argument that, comparing him to Rui Hachimura, is there that much of a difference? Of course, Rui is probably the better shooter. PJ is absolutely the better defender and the better rebounder. And when you look at the lineup now, again, without Marcus Smart in it here, you don't have a ton of bench depth. Or, in a scenario like I've been mentioning over the past few videos, that you do make a move for a guy, again, they waive Shake Milton, where you do make a move for a guy like PJ Washington, you would then be probably either moving Austin Reaves to the bench or moving some things around there to, of course, have a better defensive-minded starting lineup. And I'm curious to see what you guys think about it, because he's an interesting player. He's been very solid his time in Dallas, and he's a 3-and-D guy in Dallas especially, and has turned into a very serviceable to above-average defender. And you can see a block and a steal a game. He's a very solid rebounder, which could actually help, because yes, they got help with DeAndre Ayton in the rebounding department, but always nice to have rebounders. And we saw it last season when it hurt them a little bit. Of course, it's also helped them at times as well with how good Luka and LeBron are on the glass. But regardless of that, PJ is a great rebounder. He's a great shooter. And I think at this point of his career, he would be a very solid fit for this Lakers team. And that's why reports are starting to link him to the Lakers, because of not only the fit, but he's a beast. And I really enjoy him. Now, on the flip side of things, we look at the other options. And again, I used this tweet earlier. Feel free to pause and read it, but it's essentially kind of outlining the situation right now. And they haven't officially signed Marcus Smart because they have to use their full biannual exception, but they don't have to do that immediately. They can either waive Jordan Goodwin to make room for Smart or work on a bigger trade. You can see there in the bottom, the third last paragraph there. If they don't do it today, it can happen in a few days. And that's the biggest thing right now is you can see here, they don't need to make a trade today. Now, a trade is imminent. I think at this point, that is the most likely scenario. There's some people out there saying that that the Lakers would probably, go ahead and would have already waived Jordan Goodwin if that was the route they were going to take. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think Rob Pelinka is perusing the free agency, perusing rather the trade market, seeing what he can do with the assets he has left. And then as a last ditch effort, of course, waiving Jordan Goodwin would be the following option, which I wouldn't love necessarily. Like Goodwin, he's shown an ability to be a decent player, but if they have a ton of faith in guys like Bronny James and Gabe Vincent, especially, like I know a lot of Lakers fans want Gabe Vincent gone. They want all these different things. At the end of the day, they're going to have to figure out some sort of roster construction here, and they need to open up another move. Like another move will be made here in order to open up the full biannual exception. And I think a trade makes the most sense at this point. And even if they don't make a trade for, to open up Marcus Smart, let's say they do ultimately just waive Jordan Goodwin, I still think a trade is, all but imminent for this team. I think the signing of Marcus Smart signals bigger moves to come. I think at this point in time right now, like this team is positioned to be very good. Now you add Marcus Smart into the bench unit, you have Jake LaRavia, you have Marcus Smart. Maybe they run some crazy lineups with, Luka, Smart, LeBron, Jake LaRavia, and DeAndre Ayton or whatever, put LeBron at the 4 and Jake LaRavia at the 3, whatever ends up being. And running bigger lineups, running more defensive-minded lineups. The acquisition and the blessing, I guess, of getting DeAndre Ayton without having to give up assets, and then, of course, getting Marcus Smart without having to give up assets. The blessing of that is you get 2 fantastic players and 2 very solid guys without giving up any of your first-round picks, without giving up Dalton Knecht. And did Dalton Knecht help his value in Summer League? Absolutely not. But he can still net you along with a 2031 first-round pick, which is highly coveted and highly valued around the league. We saw that trade framework for a guy like Mark Williams at the trade deadline. Like, you can get a beast in return. And again, the exact number they need to clear is $1.2 million, which is why the Jordan Goodwin waiving would make sense. And they could do that by waiving Goodwin, but then wouldn't have the space to sign a 15th player. A trade is more likely. And that's another thing here. Like, there's so many ups and downs, I guess, and different scenarios, I should say, rather. That makes more sense to say. In this scenario, like, again, the easiest one, Jordan Goodwin gets waived, you sign Marcus Smart. But even if that happens, you still have a ton of other assets to improve the team. More convoluted scenario, the Lakers make another move, let's say a PJ Washington or Andrew Wiggins, and then you can keep Jordan Goodwin, you can sign Marcus Smart. Of course, it would require some, working the cap, of course, working the salaries, rather. And at the end of the day, I want PJ Washington, on the Lakers if that's what it takes. Now, I don't think he's the best fit. I would much prefer Andrew Wiggins. But if Andrew Wiggins isn't available, like Dan Wokey has been saying, I don't hate PJ Washington, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about it, because yes, he's not the ideal fit. Is he a needle mover defensively? I don't think so, but he would help this team be better, and I think you can make some more, well-rounded lineups with PJ Washington compared to some of the other guys. So let me know down below what your thoughts are. At this point, a trade is imminent. Again, they have a few options: waive Jordan Goodwin, waive and stretch somebody else, which is something that no one's really talking about, or a trade in which you take back less salary, which they send out, which is the most likely option at this point. But let me know down below what your thoughts are on this. Would you prefer PJ Washington, or would you prefer maybe giving up more assets for Andrew Wiggins? And do you think a move is coming? And if so, which of the 3 scenarios do you think is more likely? Folks, it's been crazy. Lots of news dropping. We're going to continue dropping news and dropping videos every single day. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. You guys are beasts. Thank you guys for watching. See you later. Cheers.